Tell me if you're good. Let me know. You should.
Hey, Justin, this is Tess back in the back.
Hello.
Buddy Tess, Buddy Justin for the TV side. Oh.
'Yes, ma'am. Here, let me get it a little bit.
1 minute.
All right.
Ten seconds.
It's time for the Lake Martin Sports Roundup, covering all local and area sports and teams, with your host Scott Hardy, and your phone calls at 256-234-6221. Presented by Bland Insurance Group. Big on savings, big on service, big on community. If it's sports in the Lake Martin area, we cover it. The Lake Martin Sports Roundup, right now.
Good Tuesday evening, everyone, and welcome into the Sports Blitz Lake Martin Sports Roundup show, live here on location in beautiful downtown Alexander City at JR Sports Bar and Grill. I'm your host, Scott Hardy, and this first segment is brought to you by Alliant Bank, and we thank them, as well as all of our sponsors, for participating with our show. We have a very action-packed show this evening. We'll discuss some high school football, officially some games kicking off for teams like Dable, who play in the Champions Challenge in their first week and now lose to Reeltown 7-0. So I'm sure that's something that Randy and I will discuss as he joins me here shortly. But again, Reeltown takes it to Dable 7-0, a game that many thought Dable would run away with. But Jackie O'Neal doing what he always does, making sure that his team plays great defense and keeping his team in it until the very end. And also one game that everyone in this community, as well as those in the surrounding listening area, were interested in was Benjamin Russell versus Central of Clay. And Benjamin Russell moves on to 2-0 as they defeat Central of Clay 23-15. And the Vols gave it a very, very good effort. In the fourth quarter, they had an opportunity to tie it up and on their last drive, but Q Johnson picks it off at the end and takes care of business for the Wildcats. But this was a game that Benjamin Russell really wanted to win. Coach Horn going back to Clay County. I know that the school isn't the same, but again, this is something that he was excited for, as well as the rest of the community. And I thought that the guys played very well. Chase Burton had a great game. Tyree at quarterback had some great plays defensively as well as offensively. And again, this was a game where the defensive line made sure that they were making plays behind the line of scrimmage, and that's what really kept the kids in the game for the majority of the part. But again, I'm sure we'll dive into that. And again, Horseshoe Bend taking on Wylie, they lose 22-20 in a heartbreaker there, a game that they had beaten Wylie in so many years, and then that winning streak has snapped. So again, a lot of high school football taking place in this first and second week for some teams. And we'll also run down Kendall Graveman, who we want to say congratulations to him, who had his contract purchased by the Toronto Blue Jays, and he is finally up going 5 levels in 1 year. And for those of you who don't really follow baseball that well, that's something that's unheard of, starting the season out in low A ball, then moving all the way up to the majors. He is now part of the 40-man roster, which means that from September up, teams have the opportunity opportunity to play as many as 40 people throughout the season up until August 31st. They can have 40, but can only play from their 25-man roster. But in this situation, they're able to pull guys from the 40-man roster. So if you make that, that gives you the opportunity to possibly make the team as they go through the playoffs, and then that gives you a better opportunity in spring training. Also, we'll run down with Robert Spain. We have an interview with him coming up, who is a former Wildcat, a goalkeeper here for the Benjamin Russell soccer team, and he is now the head coach for the University of Pittsburgh at Greensburg, and we'll dive into some things with him. I know he is trying to do a little fundraising for his program, his first year there, only the second coach in his school history, so he has an opportunity to do some pretty good things there. We'll run down some things with him, but that'll go ahead and take us up against our first break of the evening. More of the Lake Martin Sports Roundup show here live at location at JR Sports Bar and Grill right after this.
All right, you're good.
All right.
Save on a new set of tires at SNS.
Gap is licensed, insured, and bonded, and serves the Lake Martin area, specializing in lake homes, residential property, and industrial property. Call for a free inspection today, 256-825-0430.
10 seconds.
Visit us online at redflagpestcontrol.com. Red Flag Pest Control, when the problem has to
3,
stop. Guaranteed.
2, 1, go.
Welcome back into the Sports Blitz Lake Martin Sports Roundup. Randy Lee alongside Scott Hardy this evening. 800-782-0108, 256-234-6221 here locally. And, Scott, enjoying being out here at JR Sports Bar and Grill as we are each and every Tuesday night from 6 to 7. Bring your kids out in uniform. They'll eat off the kids' menu for $1.99. Also, $6.99 snack wing basket with a tea is the special. That's any time that you hear Sports Blitz on the air. And great specials. happy hour specials between 4 and 6. I think we eat here 4 or 5 times a week. It never gets old to me. So love to see you out here at JR's.
Yeah, I mean, every time I come in here, you show me something new to eat, and you've got me on a new ordeal now that I've been eating. But, yeah, 2 or 3 times a week, sometimes 4. So, again, come check out JR Sports Bar and Grill.
Again, 800-782-0108. We're talking high school football, also talking about ex-athletes here in the Alexander City area that has moved on. And not a better place to start here as we'll kick off this program. And a big congratulations to Kendall Graveman as he has been called up by the Toronto Blue Jays, has moved up 5 different levels this year. It's unheard of. To give everyone a quick background that may either be new to the community or don't really know, Kendall's been out for 5 or 6 years now, so a lot of people may be questioning, where'd he come from? How did all this happen? Well, Kendall's as good an athlete as we have produced here in Alexander City in quite a long time, as good a kid to go along with it. We've had him on this program from the moment he was in the 9th and 10th grade all the way up, I believe, as he was a guest. We were always very impressed with him. His father, Gary, is a teacher in the system as well as an assistant baseball coach here at the high school, does an outstanding job, so he was blessed in that regard also. But Kendall was a very good football player. He, as a junior, sat behind who I think may be the best quarterback I've called in Casey Cutts as he was a senior. And then Kendall as a senior, I don't think that I would be jumping out and saying it was a tough transition from 5A up to 6A and Kendall moved to quarterback, but he threw the ball around the field as well as we've had anybody. I thought he could make all the throws, so he was an outstanding football player also. But on the baseball diamonds where he made his mark, he was an all-state selection, any type of team that was put together, north-south or east-west classics, anything that was put together like that, Kendall was always in high regard here in this state. I think he was the MVP of the North-South All-Star game his junior season in that summer. Has an offer early to Auburn University. Then Butch Thompson moves over to Mississippi State, and he takes that offer as well. Still continued to get plenty of offers, but goes to Mississippi State and makes an outstanding decision for himself as he ended up over at a school that is absolutely infatuated with baseball. 12,000 show up to watch them play. You get used to being immersed in a fan base like that, like Mississippi State. His senior year, he is the starter. They're number one. Their stud that goes out there in any of the big games. Mississippi State moves on as a runner-up finish in the College World Series. That was only a couple of years ago. Last year, in spot-up duty to close out the season after his Mississippi State senior season, he throws fairly well. I think he has a 4.33 ERA and a 1-4 mark in low A ball. But this year, I don't know if anybody could have guessed that this would have happened, Scott, but he's moved up 5 different levels. Now been called up to the 40-man roster for the Toronto Blue Jays, and I can't be prouder for him and his family.
Yeah, and they deserve it so much, and he does too. He's done so much to get to this point, and we've been discussing with him. Like I try to talk to him at least once a week, and he tries to give me an update. And the thing that you brought up about him pitching at Mississippi State, that's probably the biggest advantage he's had over anyone, playing in the SEC and then being able to pitch as much as he did. And his ERA was a little high when he made that transition over to low A ball, but he had pitched long enough in the season they weren't that concerned with it. But moving up from single A to now the majors in one season in only 37 appearances, that's the crazy thing. And we'll run down some of his numbers now, but he appeared only in 4 games in low A ball before being moved up to high A, and then after being there, he goes 8-4, and then he gets to double A, 1 start, boom, and triple A. So I hadn't seen that quick of a transition in quite a time, and by him getting this contract purchased, they're not going to waste an option on somebody that they're not going to play. So he will get an opportunity to play. It may not be in a starter's role, but they'll probably use him in the bullpen at some point.
Yeah, when you look down his stats throughout the entire season, I think he's 14-6 on the season. He's had a sub-2 ERA a majority of that time. He has found a pitch. He's got a cutter, got the sinker also, but his 4-seam cutter has really made the biggest difference. There are tons of articles out there. We try to pass those along anytime that we see great news out there on Kendall. We pass them along on our Twitter and Facebook account. We'll continue to do that. But he makes it up. And, look, some kids, I've been saying it for a long time, some have the mentality that struggle once there's so much put on their back. Anytime you've watched him out there under the pressure, under the lights, College World Series, opening game of the College World Series, who gets the ball, who are they determined to get the ball, they give it to Kendall, and he goes out there and he competes. And I think you'll see the same with him at Toronto, and it's amazing that it's happened as quick as it has. If you want me to sit here and say I'm shocked, absolutely not. I'm not shocked. I did read a few of the articles where they said he had a $5,000 signing bonus. He was an 8th-round pick. 8th-round pick's high. That's not a low.
Yeah, when you got 35, 40 rounds, yeah.
So I don't want to spin it like he comes from out of nowhere and he, no, an 8th-round pick, a lot of teams wanted him other than Toronto also. They just lucked up and got him. So once he gets up there, I don't think this is something that's just going to be fly-by-night. Look, he may end up back down to start the season next year. You never know. But to be able to call up in September's call up to the 40-man roster, year 2, I'll call it, really year 1.5, to have already made it up to the level that he has. If you got some calls, if you got some questions for us that we could pass along or we can find out on Kendall, we'll definitely do that. 800-782-0108.
Yeah, but for people who don't necessarily know about the Toronto Blue Jays, they play in a dome which that fits his style of pitching perfectly. He's a pitch-to-contact guy, but he gets a lot of ground balls, and so he can go deeper in games, which will limit the opportunity for them to have to use their bullpen when that opportunity presents itself. But I think that's why he'll do so well there, and I think that's why they targeted him, because they knew his style of pitching. If you watch him in college, it was the same way, and now that he's developed his cutter, it's going to make him even more unhittable because he's not giving up runs at all. I think he's only given up more than 2 runs in back-to-back starts one time the entire season.
800-782-0108, 256-234-6221. Again, congratulations, as Kendall Graveman, that played here at Benjamin Russell High School, has been called up to the Major League, to the big team for the Toronto Blue Jays. Stay tuned in. We'll try to pass along any information, but hopefully you can go out there and you can follow him. Now you can become a Toronto Blue Jays fan. If you're a kid around town, I can assure you, if I was a kid around town as he was growing up, I'd be a Blue Jays fan. I mean, I'd keep my Braves hat, but I'd have a reason to cheer for the Blue Jays also, and I think a lot of kids here in Elliott City will feel the same way.
Yeah, and he's a hip-hop fan too, so Drake being from Toronto, he's excited about that, so hopefully the opportunity to meet him at some point. But congratulations again to Kendall as well as Coach Graveman and the rest of his family. I know he and his brother Kyle were really good friends, and he's been just one of the most supportive people ever throughout this process with Kendall. So, again, congratulations to him.
800-782-0108, 256-234-6221. Up against another break here on the Lake Martin Sports Roundup. When we come back, we'll run down some high school football from this past week. If you were out at games, love to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts. Had an upset. Reeltown defeating Dable 7-0. I didn't see it coming. But congratulations, I think, are in store for Jackie O'Neal. That's the biggest story. His final season, able to go to Dable and shut them out 7-0. I still think Dable's going to have an outstanding year, but I didn't see that. I definitely think Reeltown has a chance now. If they could do that to a Dable team that's as talented as they are, watch out for Reeltown there in 2A. 800-782-0108. More of the Sports Blitz Lake Martin Sports Roundup right after this.
Some car insurance companies say...
Central Alabama
No, you're
combines
doing this.
innovation,
Yeah, I know.
flexibility, tradition, and the
Yeah, I
latest
got this.
technology to provide a quality
Oh, wow.
education tailored to
What
meet
you do.
anyone's needs. Whether your aim is a 2-year degree or a
you.
jump start on a 4-year
Oh, thank
degree,
you.
you can feel confident that you will leave Central Alabama with a sharper focus on life. Find out more about the world of opportunity that can be yours.
We're the last.
And remember,
You got to
Central
suck.
Alabama
3,
is central to you.
2, 1. Take it away.
Welcome back into the Sports Blitz Lake Martin Sports Roundup, live on location at JR Sports Bar and Grill, as we are each and every Tuesday night. Here on this program, we talk a majority of the time about the Lake Martin area. So if you've got kids that you'd like us to highlight, you can come up to JR's, let them know. They'll pass it along to us. You can get in touch with us on all of our social media outlets through Sports Blitz, and we'd definitely love to have your kids up or your team up to talk about them and to highlight some of their accolades. 256-234-6221 is our phone number. Bland Insurance Group is our segment sponsor here. We can't thank Sean enough. Can't thank his son enough for what he's doing on the football field. Thank you, Sean, for having Daniel. And I think Sean will take that one to heart. 800-782-0108, 256-234-6221. I mentioned this, and we'll come back to it. I was shocked to see Reeltown shut out Dable. 7-0. Snaps a 6-game losing streak as they close out the Jackie O'Neal era. What a coach he has been, as he is a Hall of Famer here in the state of Alabama. Enrico Stewart gets the touchdown to close that thing off. I think it was a 6-yard run into the fourth quarter. It was a great victory, and it was a feel-good victory, but I guess there's two different ways to look at this. First, I'll start with Dable. I know you were shocked. What does Dable do from here? They got a tough game on the road at Beauregard this Friday.
Well, for a team that many are projecting to be one of the contenders for the state championship in 4A, this was not the start that they were looking for. They have an impressive victory in their first game and an exhibition in the Champions Challenge. But this game, in a rivalry game, you never know what can happen. But I don't think that this was a start that they were looking for. Offensively, they struggled in a way that I don't think that they were expecting to. The quarterback play wasn't as great either, and hopefully that can get changed because they're going to have to come with it quickly when they play Beauregard this week.
Reeltown, Ed Carricker wraps up Dable as I'm reading through the outlook here. He had 117 yards on the ground, also played great football defensively. We mentioned Enrico Stewart was the player to get the touchdown for Reeltown to close that one out, but I think it was key turnovers by Dable late in the football game when they were moving the football. Jennings, their quarterback, that's not Anthony Jennings, that's his brother, the younger Jennings. He did have 173 yards passing on 6 of 15, but it was the turnovers that killed him. And I was just in shock to see that the skill position players could be hemmed in as well as they were against Reeltown. You know Reeltown has good athletes, good speed, but anytime I've been over on Thursday night to watch this football game, the line of scrimmage was controlled by Dable, maybe not quite as much. Do you point and say that's going to be the reason that Reeltown gets through 2A? Because for Reeltown to win this game, let's start. They've got to be in contention now.
Well, yeah, and you look at what they did late in the game. They give the ball to Stewart, and they just line him up in a shotgun position. They just gave their best player the ball and said, go play. And they did it consistently in the third and fourth quarter, and that's how they moved the ball on them. They weren't moving the ball that great in the first half. Both teams struggled. It was a defensive stalwart there. But, again, Reeltown with a big victory there, and this could continue to have some success there as they make a run for a state championship.
800-782-0108, 256-234-6221 is our phone number. Our Lake Martin area player of the week, which is presented by Alliant Bank each and every week, is Coosa Central's quarterback and defensive back Andrew Hammond. Andrew passed for 198 yards, including 2 touchdowns, and rushed for 57 yards. On defense, he accounted for 6 tackles and a fumble recovery as the Cougars fell to Fayetteville High School 28-22. Congratulations to Coosa Central's Andrew Hammond, this week's Alliant Bank Player of the Week. Close game. Fayetteville usually having a pretty good football team. Coosa Central has been able to keep the same coaching staff at hand, and maybe that means well for them moving forward. I know they got an outstanding player in Trey Royal.
Yeah, he's one of the better players in the area, and you're going to see his stat line at the end of the season, and it's going to surprise you. He's one of those players that is going to get 10 to 12 tackles per game, but that's a close game for them, and I think you'll see that more this season. They may not win a lot, but they'll have more competitive games than they have previously.
Hate to see this for Horseshoe Bend, but Wadley takes them down 22-20. That football game always seems to be close each and every Thursday, same as Dable and Reeltown. They play this one on a Thursday night, 22-20. Wadley comes away with the victory. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit surprised to see this because Horseshoe Bend's kind of owned Wadley over the last several years.
Yeah, it was a disappointing loss for them. They struggled early on in the game, and when they tried to make their comeback, it was a little too late. But the first game where they implement their new system of the wishbone, and hopefully things get situated with them there, but they struggled to move the ball early on, and it was just a little too late.
Love to hear from you. If you were out at some of these football games, you've got things that you saw, you got kids that you want to talk about, 800-782-0108, 256-234-6221. BRHS goes on the road, Central of Clay County. Comes home with a victory, 23-15. Scott, you were up there with myself and Brett Pritchard calling it. Let me go to the phone lines quickly before this. Brian in Elmore County, you're on Sports Blitz. Brian, you there with us?
I think we lost him.
Sorry, we lost you, but if you could call back, 256-234-6221, your thoughts.
I think it was a great football game. It was one that had so much emotion. The first half was a great game defensively for the Wildcats. Both teams did what they needed to do when big plays were needed, but the Wildcats are going to have to stop giving up some of their bigger plays. But other than that, I really think that they played well against Opelika this week. I think you won't see many more passes. Coach Horn alluded to that to Ed Bailey, the sports editor here, that he's not really concerned anymore about how many times they passed the ball. He said, I don't know how many times we did pass it, but it was probably too many. But Tyree did have the big play there, 2 for 7 for 74 yards and the touchdown. But I think that athletically they're going to be able to play with most teams this season.
Yeah, I definitely do. Defensively, the Wildcats only giving up about 180 yards of offense to Central of Clay County. The 2 touchdowns that Central of Clay had were halfback passes out of the wishbone. You didn't really see them coming. Breakdowns in defense, I think, accounted for at least 60 to 80 of those yards. So the Wildcats maybe gave up 100 yards of total offense outside of those 3 breakdowns that I can remember. One other pass play where it was a breakdown in coverage. Corner was on the opposite side. Safety did see it but didn't get back far enough in coverage. They hit about a 50 or 60-yarder down the field. So that was a majority of the yards. So defensively, they continue to play well for the Wildcats. Go back to the phone lines. Caller, you're on the Lake Martin Sports Roundup.
This is Brian.
Hey, Brian, how are you?
Michigan State 38, Oregon 35.
38-35, and I think that is our prediction for the week for Sports Blitz. And is it Oregon rushing yards as the tiebreaker, Brian? How many you got?
245.
245. We'll put them down, buddy. We appreciate the phone call. Thank you. That's Brian, 800-782-0108. Running the football was a strength. Chase Burton was 99 yards on 24 carries. Tyree Gray, as you mentioned, he also ran for 97 yards on 8 carries. One of those a huge play as he took it about 45 to 50 yards around the left corner on an option play. That's what this offense is going to need. I like the Wolf package that they put in. It's a pistol version, shotgun version of the wing T formation, also with 2 splits, so you do get some players in space. It's not all bunched up in the middle. And we've got some skilled athletes that can make some plays. Tyreek Norris, Pac-Man made a ton of plays on 3rd down for us, and I think we'll lean heavily on him to make big plays for this offense.
Yeah, he, as well as Chase Burton and Orlando Henderson with a touchdown in the game as well, he's going to be somebody that gets heavily involved. But a great play early in the game, the first touchdown after we get the safety. There's the fake handoff. It looked just like Nick Marshall, the Sammy Coates in the Alabama game last year. So they're using their athletes and putting their best athletes on the field and making sure they get the ball.
800-782-0108, 256-234-6221. If you're out at ball games, call in. Let us know. What were your thoughts on Central of Clay?
They were a little more athletic than I thought, but defensively, we manned them, and offensively, I thought the offensive line, we outweighed them maybe 50, 60 pounds, so we were able to lean on them. But they're going to be a team that in 5A that, while it's not that competitive, they have an opportunity to probably be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in that classification.
You know, the thing that did surprise me is we held them to sub 50 yards of total rushing yards there in the football game. I don't think I saw that one coming. Our defensive line, I thought, played outstanding. I think Trey Edwards is a name to continue to talk about. He's a junior. He's 6'1", 6'2", 195, 200 pounds.
One of your favorite players.
He's active. He makes plays. He makes plays in the running game on opposite sides. When you see an end come from the opposite side to make plays, he can move, and he's got a motor. and Trey Edwards does, and he's a sub 4.7 guy also, and he looks like he's got the frame to put another 20, 25 pounds on. He could be a big recruit. He's got to continue to play like that. The film's got to come on. He's got to play like he did the other night to become that. So in the middle, Tay Robinson going to need a humongous night from him against Opelika, because Opelika is going to bring a running back in named Josh Johnson. Josh was the running back for Russell County last year, has moved over to Opelika. They're very physical on the offensive and defensive front. So our defensive front will need to make plays behind the line of scrimmage. They'll need to make some negative plays to put them in some long passing situations, because they've got a great quarterback. Matthew Christian, he put on a show against Auburn last week, almost 240 yards passing. He was the difference in the football game for Opelika. So that is the thing that you'll see for Opelika. A 3-year starter at quarterback. They can throw it around. So we got to stop one or the other. So, kind of it's where's you pick your poison.
Well, I feel good about our front seven there. In the secondary, I think we can adjust to it. We're starting to see some of our athletes get there. We did have a couple of blown coverages, but you won't be able to have those against a team like Opelika who can throw the ball. And the Central Play really wasn't a team that could pass it. So, as you said, there were some breakdowns when they did succeed. So you can kind of throw those out as flukes. But against Opelika, they're going to throw the ball 25, 30 times a game, and you're going to have to be prepared for it.
Another break that we're coming up to, I'll throw this out there as we're heading to break. The biggest concern I have moving forward in the season is so many players going both ways. I like the idea of going both ways. Been around teams that had players that went both ways a lot, but we cramped. And when we cramped the other night, I think it was 7 or 8 of us that were going down. You're just never the same. Once that first cramp hits, your mentality is, please don't make that move again that's going to make that cramp come back in. And we had that problem the other night. Maybe you can get it cleaned up. A lot of times when you're playing in the humid weather that we are, and you're playing both ways, and in the secondary getting run off, trust me, there's a big difference between playing on the offensive and defensive front going both ways and playing corner and getting run off 40, 50 yards every pass play or every running play. Most of the time, you not just blocking, not stop blocking downfield, just run players off. I mean, there's a ton of running that goes on. Yes, players have done it, and they'll continue to do it, but it is a little worrisome, Scott.
Yeah, and it's, as you said, it's our skill position players, and we're relying so heavily on them but we need them. So, as you said, it's something that I think they'll address, but I think it'll be like last season where you started to implement more guys, 5th, 6th game of the season after you've had some of your second-string guys be able to come in and play. I think you'll see it again this season as well.
256-234-6221. We'll take your phone calls on the other side. Got a great guest, Robert Spain, coming up with us next, Scott.
Yes, he's the head coach for the University of Pittsburgh at Greensburg, and I'm looking forward to this interview.
Yeah, head soccer coach, an outstanding soccer player, I believe, here for the Benjamin Russell Wildcats, so we'll talk to him coming up. More of the Sports Blitz Lake Martin Sports Roundup right after this.
All right, you're off, and I'll get him on the phone.
All right, gracias.
seconds. Ten seconds. 3, 2, 1. Take it away.
Welcome back, and thanks for joining the Blitz Lake Martin Sports Roundup. Here live on location in beautiful downtown Alexander City at JR Sports Bar and Grill. 256-234-6221 is the number to dial in, and we'll take your calls. This segment is brought to you by Redden Funeral Home, and we appreciate them being a part of the show. Well, next up we have a very special guest, Robert Spain, a former Benjamin Russell standout at goalie and Alexander City native, and now is the head soccer coach of the University of Pittsburgh at Greensburg. Robert, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Earlier this year, you were hired as the second men's soccer coach in the 16-year history of the program. What was that process like, and how excited are you for your first head coaching job?
Yeah, it was a crazy process, actually. I've never been through a process like it, where they bring you on campus. They did a Skype interview and several phone interviews. So it was big time, and they made that pretty well known from the get-go that they wanted to do it the right way. And once I got here, it was late February, and you get to meet all the guys. And in soccer and NCAA, you get a non-traditional season, which is basically like a month you get to work with them and play a game. So we hit the ground running and just tried to dive in and get going.
And yeah, before taking this position, you served as an assistant for Moravian College as well as a stint with Waldorf College. How valuable do you think that experience will be as you make this transition?
It was huge, and I have to actually give a shout out to Ben Russell, Coach Teal and Coach Keystone. They actually got me my foot in the door back when I was in college. They let me come out there and work with the boys and girls team there for the Wildcats, and it was fun as an alumnus to be able to work with them. And jump into the college game, everything's quicker, the ball moves quicker, everybody's faster. So just having that transition of working with people as an assistant coach, it was good to have that under your belt and come in and do the same thing as a head coach.
And yeah, as I said, you're only the second coach in the 16-year history of the program. Do you feel any added pressure in replacing the program's founder?
There's definitely a little bit, absolutely. That's a good question. I think it's one of those situations, though, that everybody wanted a change just to get some youth in there, just to kind of change up the mentality. They've been successful in the past. 10 years ago, they went to the national tournament 2 times in 4 years. So there were some good players in the past, and things that kind of died off, and competition and kind of, raised all around us. And, we're in a good area for soccer, so people around here kind of started taking it more seriously, and I think that they wanted to go out and try to find someone that also wanted to do the same thing.
We're here with Robert Spain, head soccer coach for the University of Pitt Greensburg. And again, during your collegiate days at the University of Charleston, you were part of one of the quickest turnarounds in the NCAA soccer history. The previous year, I think you guys maybe went 0-17 and you ended up going 19-4 the next season, as well as a top 10 national ranking. Can you give us a little details about that?
Sure. So I actually transferred to Charleston, and I played for a really young head coach who's now at Penn State. His name is Chad Dernberger. He's just one of these guys that believes in giving guys chances. And this kid from middle of nowhere, Alabama, small town, shot him his video, or I shot him my video, and he believed in me and brought me up on campus for a visit and everything. And it's just one of those guys you kind of owe the world to. And it was a bunch of us kind of ragtag group. We took over this program that hadn't done much, was at the bottom of the ranks literally in the entire country, and next thing you know, 16 months later, we're in the Elite Eight. We're top 10 in the country. We're beating number 4 teams in the country, all this stuff. And Chad, our coach, was National Coach of the Year, and it was kind of a whirlwind experience, but it's one of those that you never forget, and kind of you forge that bond with all your teammates.
Well, speaking of a whirlwind experience, you also spent some time in the professional ranks with the LA Galaxy. How was that?
You can't lead anybody on. No, I didn't play or anything. I wasn't that good, but I was just in the front office, and it was fun. I mean, you get to be around it. You get to see, David Beckham and Robbie Keane, Landon Donovan, those type guys. Every single day, you have access to training. You have access to the U.S. men's national team out there in Los Angeles, and it was cool just to see the experience. And obviously I wasn't coaching, I wasn't playing, but being around that culture, that professionalism, it's huge, and it's something that we try to bring to our guys every single day that we're here, even though we're at just the Division III level.
Well, speaking of Landon Donovan, interesting U.S. soccer is at an all-time high. Being a part of that, what steps do you think the MLS can take, as well as the rest of the country, to ensure that our soccer is being, publicized and putting great products such as leagues in England and Germany?
Oh yeah, I mean the league is taking strides big time every single year. The joke around the league is that it's still in its teenage years. I think it's the 18th or 19th year right now. So it just started driving, I guess. That's the metaphor that they all use. When you really look at it, it's about the youth now. They're developing youth players at the age of 13, 14, 15, and they're all having this direct path to go play professionally. Just at the Galaxy, you look at guys like Giassi Zardes, Jose Villarreal. These guys are jumping straight in instead of going and staying in college. There's actually an Alabama guy, Chandler Hoffman, that left college early and is on the Galaxy. So it's all about the youth players now, and they have a place to play. They have a place to play competitively. And I think that's going to help us way down the road. It's going to be a huge step.
Well, as I said, you're an Alexander City native, and so I wanted to get your thoughts on the program when you were playing here. My good friend Austin Till is the head coach now, and when I told him that you were going to be on the show, he said that I'd be shocked at how well you had developed and what you did for the program. It was starting to take off kind of when you were leaving, but can you talk a little bit about your time here at the BRHS squad?
Sure. I mean, it was I played for Austin's dad. It makes me kind of feel old, but Coach Teal and Coach Keeson, they were huge for us. I played for Coach Owens as well. So just guys that actually cared about the game, and we didn't have all the support in the world as far as our own soccer facilities or huge travel budgets or anything like that, but they really just let us fall in love with the game. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that you have a bunch of guys that enjoy something, let them do it together, let them enjoy it together. And we worked hard. We just outworked teams. We didn't try to have this egomaniac type stuff going on. It was all about just outworking teams, and we did it together. It was really important. It was huge, and it builds confidence for all of us. And there was players from the ages younger than me that went on and did a lot of really good stuff too. And Levi and Harris Haynes, all these type guys, and Austin obviously is one of them. There's just tons of them. It's just a program that's continuously growing, and I can't wait to watch it as an alumnus.
Absolutely. Before we let you go, I understand you're trying to do some fundraising for your program this year. If you'd like to talk about it and see if there's anyone listening that they can do anything that they can to help.
Sure, man. I mean, so obviously it's fundraising as far as the dollars and stuff, but really what we're trying to do is just get people to support it. And it's more of a membership pledge, I guess. And the coolest thing that we're doing is we're putting people's names and hometowns up in our locker room so our guys can see that people from all over the world, all over the country are supporting them in a lot of different ways. So you can go on our website, just pick Greensburg Athletics. You can go on to soccer, obviously. Fill out a quick little form saying where you are, where you're from, and we'll put your last name, your hometown, up in our locker room. So all these guys from New York and Pennsylvania, and in the future will be Jersey and Ohio and Canada. They're going to see all these people from Alabama, hopefully, and let's see, man, look at these people. these people care about us. It's kind of a cool thing, and obviously can give money and get some gear too. But it's really about the support more than anything else.
Good deal. Well, Robert, we appreciate you joining us. That's Robert Swain, head soccer coach for the University of Pittsburgh at Greensburg. Good luck to win your first tenure here.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. We'll go ahead and take another break. More of the Late Martin Sports Roundup show live in location at JR Sports Bar and Grill right after this.
All right, you're off.
Jeez.
Can't make you up.
All right, 10 seconds.
We're up.
All right, I'm going to get your
3,
thoughts on.
2, 1. Take it away.
Welcome back into the Sports Blitz Lake Martin Sports Roundup. Randy Lee alongside Scott Hardy. 800-782-0108, 256-234-6221. We're live on location at JR Sports Bar and Grill as we are each and every Tuesday night from 6 to 7. Make sure to bring your kids out here in uniform. They'll eat off the kids' menu for $1.99. $6.99 snack wing basket with a T is the special each and every time you hear us on the air. Also, great interview there. Always great to hear of ex-athletes here in the Alexander City, Benjamin Russell area that's moving on and continuing to coach. It's kind of crazy to think about how many are not only on the high school ranks here in the state, but Robert doing big things out there coaching on the college ranks.
Yeah, and I think this is a great opportunity for him. And as we talked about it, he spent a lot of time around the game, even spent some time in the front office with the LA Galaxy, learned that spot. And coming in Moravian College last year, that team was one of the top 15, 20 in the country. So he's got an opportunity to do some great things there. Only the second coach there in that team's history. So he's got a chance to cement his legacy his own self.
We got about 6 or 8 minutes left here on this segment of the program. 7 to 9 tonight will be Sports Blitz Live. It's brought to you by JR Sports Bar and Grill and S&S Discount Tire. If you're listening in on 97.5, you can keep it there. You're heading over to the Auburn-Opelika market, you can pull us in on 95.9 Talk FM radio in the Auburn-Opelika area, brought to you by the Tiger FM, and thanks to them for working with us. But if you're looking for us on television, continue to watch us in Lake Martin on Channel 3 Charter Communications or Channel 80 statewide. Over 550,000 households here in the state will pull us in. I got to get your thoughts on Auburn and Alabama this past weekend before we go off air. I'll start with your Auburn Tigers, 45-21. What did you take away from Saturday, Scott?
It went about how I thought it would. Defensively, they made great adjustments in the second half. Ellis Johnson continues to do that. That's something that last year kept us in a lot of ball games. The first half, it takes us a little while to get adjusted. But defensively, I still think in the secondary we have some question marks there, and linebacker play wasn't that great. But the defensive line play was a lot better in the second half, I'll say that. But scoring the ball, I don't think it matters who we have back there. Jeremy Johnson puts up 24 in the first half, so he's capable. And then you come back with another 22 with Nick Marshall, 23 with Nick Marshall. So, again, I'm looking forward to it. Next 2 or 3 games, you'll really get an opportunity to see. I think Jeremy Johnson will probably play a lot more in some of these games. I'd like to see him get ready. But in regards to Alabama, I was shocked that it was reversed, where offensively you don't really have that much to complain about. 2 100-yard receivers, a 265-yard passer, and a 100-yard running back. So they did what they needed to do offensively. But, again, that quick spread attack is something that hurt them. Not saying that they're going to lose to those types of teams, but when you have to play an Ole Miss, a Mississippi State, Texas A&M, and Auburn who runs that style of play and that scheme, you're going to struggle. So, again, I was impressed with Blake Sims. I think it's going to be funny to see how this soap opera between Nick Saban and your boy from USC, Lane Kiffin, but that's something dynamical I'd like to see happen. But, again, I'm just excited to see what Auburn's going to do the rest of the season.
256-234-6221, 800-782-0108. Alabama, what did you take away from Blake Sims? You think he played fairly well? He was 24-33, 250 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 1 INT there in the game.
He looked a little lost a couple times, getting some people lined up. That's kind of been something that's plagued him, his understanding of the system. But I think that if by Coker not playing in this game, I think that ends it for him. Unless something just happens going forward, I think you stick with Blake Sims and just see what happens. Because if that was your best product and Coker didn't beat him out, then that should kind of give you an indication of how well he played. But, again, with somebody like Amari Cooper out there, they got him the ball several times in the game. But defensively, Reuben Foster didn't really impress me that well. He looked lost out there at times. So that's going to be something that they have to get adjusted with. But I think Nick Saban will get his guys together. I know he went on a rant about who they were playing this week, so I know he's a little irritated, but we'll see how it goes.
You know, one player that you can't question if you're an Alabama fan is Amari Cooper. He had 12 catches for 130 yards. He was outstanding in the ball game. He looked like a top 5 pick.
Is he better than Julio, you think?
I think he's as good. I don't know if he's as physical as Julio, but yeah, with the ball in his hands, he seems as good, doesn't he, to you?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the first play of the game. Boom, they open up with a bubble screen.
Great call.
I mean, and it was, and I think you'll see a lot of that. That's that West Coast offense that Kiffin likes to do, so he'll be one of the main contributors in that offense this season.
He had 12 catches for 130 yards. T.J. Yeldon, 23 carries, 126 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He looked like he had a little burst that maybe he lost later on in the year. I don't know if he was injured slightly to close out last season, but he looked quicker on the field the other night.
Well, I mean, he's always heard all spring, all summer is about Henry. And I think you could see in that running, he's got a little chip on his shoulder. He wants that job, and he's somebody that many thought a couple years ago would be a Heisman contender. So if he puts up numbers like that the rest of the season, he definitely will be.
Derrick Henry had 200-yard rushers for Alabama, 17 carries, 113 yards, and a touchdown. I do think that part of the storyline moving forward will be the interaction between Nick Saban and Lane Kiffin on the sideline. Luke Robinson and I will host Sports Blitz Live tonight. I'm sure I'll hear his thoughts about having him down. To me, I'm a little surprised that he's on the sideline, but we'll hold that off. We'll let Luke comment on that. Auburn on the other side, Jeremy Johnson almost perfect in the first half, 12 of 16 total, 243 yards, 2 touchdowns. When it comes to throwing the football, when it comes to looking like an NFL caliber talent, especially back there, in the pocket, sitting around, picking teams apart, he fits the mold, and we've known that for a long time now, Scott.
Yeah, I really think that whenever he does take over the job full-time, he'll put up bigger numbers than what Winston did, and I think that'll be someone that you'll hear comparisons to. But what a great first half. He could have stayed in there, and it would have been the same thing. But I do think the offense moves a little bit smoother with Nick Marshall. He is the front guy, so you can see that the play calling is a little different, and it causes defenses to have a few more adjustments there. But a great first half by Jeremy Johnson.
Running backs were solid for Auburn also. Cameron Artis-Payne, 26 carries for 177 yards and a touchdown. Corey Grant, 10 carries, 87 yards and a touchdown. Corey Grant continues to stay around that 9 yards per carry average, and we didn't see him take the amount of carries that we saw Artis-Payne take, but each time the ball's in his hands, you kind of hold your breath a little bit.
Yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts on Rock Thomas. Were you a little shocked that he didn't get an opportunity to play?
I was, and our trivia or our prediction for this week for Auburn on Sports Call will be rushing yards for Rock Thomas will be the tiebreaker. I think that we will see him more. I think we'll see Trey Williams more. Saw Trey Williams bits and pieces this past Saturday. I think we'll see him a lot more in this upcoming game against San Jose State. If Rock Thomas comes into the ball game and he gives that little bit of a burst, Peyton Barber. Brett was touting Peyton Barber the few series he was in the football game the other night. Peyton Barber looks the part also. So just a lot of great running backs here in this conference. Alabama's got as good a running backs as anybody's got in the country. Georgia's got as good a running back. I wouldn't trade Auburn's backs for many others also. So kind of crazy how many are sitting around here.
I'll tell you who else I wouldn't trade, and that's Duke Williams either. He's good. I mean, he was as advertised, and I think you'll see that continue to happen. Coates wasn't as involved as I would have liked, but he had an opportunity to score a touchdown. He dropped it. But with those two out there demanding double coverage, it's going to open up passes like you see with Melvin Ray, and you'll see Ricardo Lewis getting involved more. So it's just going to be a wide-open scheme for Auburn from here on out.
About 30 seconds left here in the program. This weekend's games for those two teams, not too much to talk about, but the last 30 seconds, Scott, we've got one of the better games that we'll have all season long, though I think that will go a long way in determining who plays for a national title. That's Oregon and Michigan State. I don't know who I point to. Two differing styles, going to be a lot of fun to watch.
I'm going to go with Oregon. I just don't trust the Big Ten in big games. But Michigan State seems to be a different caliber of team, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm going to take Michigan State in that one. I like their brand of offense, and the reason that I like Michigan State is Oregon hasn't manned up when they've had to take on a team that's as physical as an SEC team or Michigan State team will. It's going to be interesting. Should be a great weekend of football. We'll continue to cover it here. You can check us in on Sports Call. Andy and I will be back with you tomorrow from 4 to 6 at Sports Call Auburn on 93.9 in the Auburn market. And following that up, Brett, we'll close out the week also. So we're at the end of this program. I'll head on over to the TV station. We'll have Sports Blitz Live coming from 7 to 9. For Scott Hardy, I'm Randy Lee saying thanks for tuning in to the Sports Blitz Lake Martin Sports Roundup.
All right, you're off.